It's been a rough week for the Wizards. I'm gonna go through some of these scores. Let me see if I can swap screens real quickly and we can get a live scoreboard up. Let me do a couple of things behind the scenes. But yeah, this game, as you can see, live, you're checking it on Twitch. 146 points allowed is pretty atrocious defense. So it's something that we got to do a lot better in going forward. Let me see if this button works, and then I click this over here, and exit, and make you guys a little bit larger, like that. Cool. All right, so we have got sorry, let me go back to the Wizards schedule. So we had a couple of games this week. We played last week we talked about the Celtics and the Wizards game, and then we played the Hawks. So that'll be the next game that I talk about. The Wizards actually played pretty good in the first quarter, outscored them 30-25. Atlanta then came roaring back, outscored them by 13, 34-21. Outscored them by 9 in the third, put up 40 points on them. The Wizards put 39 points up in the fourth quarter, but it still allowed 31. And by that point, the damage had kind of been done. And it was a 130-121 victory for the Atlanta Hawks. I'll start off with you, Tim. What were some of your thoughts on this game?
I don't think this game was quite as close as it looks on the final scoreboard because the Wizards just won the fourth, and a lot of it was like garbage time. So I'm not going to say this is a game that the Wizards should win because Atlanta's definitely a better team, but they're not. They haven't, they're not exactly dominant. They haven't been killing it early this year, so I thought the Wizards would be a little bit more competitive. Again, it's just they have such bad defensive lapses that they can't really survive. And they've been playing a lot of guys, which is nice because you want to see the rookie like Koulibaly play a lot and some of the young guys get more seasoning, get more time on the court. But just a lot of guys in and out. It's hard to put up a consistent effort. And we've only, they only have one win. Even that game was kind of up and down. It's just really hard for them to find consistency, and they're gonna be underdogs and lose a lot of games like this.
For sure. Erwin, what are some of your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, agree, Tim. The game wasn't even that close. Like just like the Wizards like end of game lineup where they played the Scrubs versus the Scrubs. Like they they dominate, and like the Wizards are going to lose a lot of games this season. Some people had the Wizards winning 30 games. Right now, that's looking way too high, and they don't really have the like Kyle Kuzma's not even like he's like probably the worst best player on like every single team in the league, and maybe like I don't think this is a Wes Unseld thing. I think this is just a roster construction, considering also Daniel Gafford didn't play. It was probably just going to be a loss.
I didn't think I realized that 14 players are now active on an NBA roster. For some reason, I thought it was less than that, but like everyone played in this game for the Wizards, it seems. Like it just, and it's kind of crazy that like everyone seemed to have scored in this game, but yet we still, defensively allowed 130. I just thought that was kind of interesting. I'm just looking at how many people got playing time in this game. It's just kind of rare. But
That's a trend too. They do that a lot. Like they play like 13, 14 guys.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not
because
sure.
the games are already over by the end of the fourth
lot,
quarter.
lot of mop up duty.
Yeah, it's just really interesting though, like because I mean they're getting double digit even minutes in here, I mean? They're pretty far down on
Well,
the
I don't think
roster.
like they're playing a deeper rotation anyways, because I don't think Koulibaly like he's not really ready, and but they're just playing him because he's a young guy and the Wizards aren't going anywhere. But like, look at his line; he only had 5 points and 3 assists and like 28
28
minutes. But he's
minutes,
like an
yeah.
18-year-old rookie or 19, so you let him play through it, and that's kind of what like whenever they bring in like him, it kind of falls apart. Like they get out to these like leads in the first quarter, and it kind of falls apart. And Jordan Poole, 13 points, 0 rebounds, and 1 assist. Not a great line for him. And he threw off the backboard dunk to Kuzma, and they're down by like 20 points, which is pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty funny. Yeah, it's just
That was his one assist, I guess.
yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's true. All right, we're gonna go into this next game, which is kind of interesting because it's part of this NBA in-season tournament. Which basically there's new divisions for each of the conferences, and you play 4 games, which are the kind of the early round games, and it's split up over a couple of months, and then it kind of reseeds those teams, and the top seeds advance, and the bottom seeds will then play each other yeah, again, because they all play the same number of games, even if you're playing a tournament, and even if you lose in the earlier rounds. And then the only game that doesn't count towards your regular season standing is the championship game. But Arun, let other people know, is there any other information that people should know going into this in-season tournament?
Yeah, they're definitely doing this to get more ratings, and like after I think there's a new TV deal coming up, so they're definitely trying to bring in more eyeballs. And every team, there are like 5 teams in a group, and like the Wizards, I don't remember which group they're in, but Miami's in their group, and basically the some of the tiebreakers include just like wins and losses, and also point differential. So that at the end of this game, we saw Miami having to put back their starters in. Even the Wizards went on like a kind of run again with their great end of game lineup, and Miami's I guess they wanted to get a bigger point differential, even though it didn't really show up in the end. And um, I think it the other than this game, there were some quality games. I think teams are trying a little bit harder, and some teams are calling it like a playoff atmosphere. Like so, it's definitely more exciting, and I think, but it'll get more interesting when they're not just every team is in it, but there's actually like elimination. Then it'll be probably more exciting.
Yeah. Tim, any other thoughts before we get into the scoring in this game?
No, I was just reading this funny blog post about this game, and it started by saying, "Start the garbage gang," and the garbage gang includes Koulibaly, Ryan Rollins, Bilal Koulibaly, and the third is Omaruyi. So not exactly household names. You have a couple like journeymen, I guess, young guys, but you know, it's just they're playing against the other garbage gang team from the other side, and that's sad that that's probably the best basketball that they've played this year. They have had a lot of minutes together though, so that's good. And Johnny Davis still kind of sucks, so that's not good to see. But
What a
um,
terrible pick. I just don't
yeah,
understand.
I know it's not
And I
looking
kind of
great.
thought it was a pretty terrible pick when we did it. And I don't know why everyone was so high on him. I don't see it. I don't get it. But anyway, I'm kind of laughing because if you're watching live, you can sort of see his haircut just cracks me the hell up. Like
Yeah,
it just reminds me of Andre 3000, like hey era. It's just what a ridiculous anyway. Um
and he just does it for the NBA photo day.
yeah,
So
exactly.
he just does it every year and then changes it right away,
Yeah,
like to like mess with the promos.
yeah, it's just so crazy to me. But it works for him. He says 7 rebounds, 20 points in this game. So tied 34 all in the first. Miami took a 6 point lead at halftime, and then they just went on a tear in the third, outscored them 41-27. And then the Wizards we were talking about in garbage time came back and actually outscored them 33-20 to make it somewhat reasonable, but just that third quarter just destroyed them again. I mean, I watched it, and it all started at the very beginning of the quarter where Miami went on a big run, and it just completely deflated the Wizards, and you could just kind of see it, and it just anyway, I'll let Tim give his thoughts on it.
Yeah, just like we talked about, they have some really terrible stretches where they're playing some guys that normally they wouldn't, but they just want to get them minutes. And it's kind of crazy that their defense is so poor because like we talked about, they play a lot of guys. So normally bad defense is often because people are tired and they're playing too many minutes and they're kind of just saving their energy for offense. But we have all these fresh guys. They just kind of suck. So that's the main problem. But it's sadly, I think this is how this season's going to go. I wish we could tank for Wemby, but we've timed it 1 year too late. But that's another story.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just very frustrating. Tim, what are some of your thoughts on? All right, sorry, Arun, what are some of your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, again, the same thing. The Wizards just don't have like a good primary option like Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler didn't even shoot particularly well, but he got to the free throw line and like lived there. And I don't really think he played much in the fourth quarter. He still had 20 points. And yeah, Denny had another good game. But again, Jordan Poole, not good again. And it was just like Kyle Kuzma, I guess he had a pretty solid game, but just the bench unit made this game a lot closer. I think the common theme for the Wizards is that if they're doing well in the first quarter, they're probably going to struggle in the third quarter, just like based on halftime adjustments. And Eric Spoelstra's, there's a reason he's like considered one of the best, if not the best, coach of the year. And Miami was, I think they're 1-4 heading into this game, so they needed to come out with a win. And this was the in-season. This was a kind of playoff game for them. So considering it was the in-season tournament, so they showed up to play. I was impressed a little bit by Gafford's block on Adebayo, but he needs to bring it for more than just like one quarter. He needs to bring it for a couple quarters, and they don't have a good backup center, so they're going to lose a lot of games. And Gafford is not on the court.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm still watching a commercial. There's a Thanksgiving horror movie. I've never heard of this before. It's kind of hilarious.
They're getting desperate.
Really desperate. It does not seem like anyway. So I guess we can move on to the next game, but it's just frustrating because I just don't feel like this is a very good year for us. And I just don't like, I'm trying to figure out like the bright spots and what we're should be looking forward to. Everyone knew going into the 76ers game it was just gonna be a blowout. It's all that was gonna kind of talked about. They were predicted to win by at least 11, and they did more than that. I would have taken that spread pretty easily too. 76ers started off strong, scored 33 in the first. That score was 33-24. In the second, they put up 42 points to our 34. In the third, neither team played defense, but 76ers put up 45 points to the Wizards 40. And then in the fourth, in the garbage time, we always seem to win the fourth when it doesn't matter. Put up 30 points to the 26. But Tim, what are your thoughts about this horrible performance to the 76ers?
Yeah, the 76ers have dominated the Wizards lately for the most part. There was a pretty competitive playoff series, but they won in 5 games. Embiid scored, I think, 48 tonight. And if you look at this, he just kills the Wizards always because, again, only Gafford can sort of deal with them and not even really at all. So
48 points from the center position. Ugh, that's crazy.
Yeah, and he's a great player, but you can't give up 48 to anybody and expect to win. And the Wizards shot 51%. They're shooting outside of a couple players was pretty good tonight. So you're feeling good if you score 128 points on the road. I mean, that's usually going to get it done. It's just, again, atrocious defense. So they're playing a lot of guys and just winning the garbage gang minutes like usual. So not a good recipe for winning an NBA game against a good team.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Arun, any other thoughts about this game?
Yeah, Embiid was like in the first quarter he kind of struggled, which is hilarious because Gafford had 5 blocks in the first quarter, but lo and behold, Gafford only had 5 blocks for the whole game. So I don't know, I think he woke up Embiid in the third quarter. Embiid had 29 points.
Oh my god!
So I just like I think like he could have probably gotten like maybe 60, at least 60, and maybe 70 if he had another quarter like that. But he wasn't allowed to play in the fourth quarter, obviously, because of sportsmanship. So maybe like if Kobe was still alive, he'd be like, get back in the game and just like dominate. But I was like, I was kind of intrigued if Embiid was going to come back and play, but even I like turned it off and just watched the rest of the recording because I assumed they were going to put him back in because he would have had like, I'm pretty sure he'd have had like 70 if he kept playing because he was angry at Gafford for the way that he was like guarding him because he had 5 blocks and he kind of woke him up. So Gafford, next time, don't wake up Joel Embiid. Just kind of like play like if he's half asleep, just he's kind of like Michael Jordan, especially against the Wizards.
Yeah, it's just crazy to put up that kind of numbers. The Jets are kind of driving. They're still down 20-6. The Chargers were able to get a field goal a few minutes ago. And wait, is that considered a fumble? I really was sure that that was deflected at the line of scrimmage, but they're letting them play it out. There is a flag called potential fumble that may have been returned for a touchdown.
We need to see
And
the replay because you could never tell live, really. If
yeah, well,
his
this guy's
arm was
saying
going,
that he may have gone out of bounds. So we're gonna hold it here and see what what the call is. I really didn't think that it was a fumble. So that's where I'm coming from. All right, let's see if his.
I'm gonna laugh if they do their celebration for 3 minutes and
Oh
then
no, they're right. That he threw it with an empty hand.
yeah, that's the thing.
Oh,
You can never tell live because you can't see if when exactly the ball came out.
wow. So it was. Did he step out of bounds here? Oh, yep, right there. So they'll get it at the 1 yard line, but that's gonna seal the deal in this game. Because basically this is Jets had to try to win it here. So it'll be first and goal for the Chargers. Ends up probably being the play of the game. Because if the Jets go down and score, make it a touchdown, who knows? They still had 2 timeouts left, but now I think even a field goal kind of finishes this game up. All right, let's take a look at the week ahead for the Wizards. They've got some big games. They have a game against the Hornets on Wednesday. And then on Friday, they play against the Hornets again, but that one is an in-season tournament game. That's crazy that they have a back-to-back, but one is a tournament game and the other is not. So they kind of got a tune-up game for the tournament game. And then on Sunday they play the Nets. I think that's
The
all
biggest
right.
game of the year.
Right. So and
For
then
all the
next
marbles.
right, and then the next Monday they play the Raptors in Toronto. That'll be a 7:30 start time for that one. So I'll start off with you, Tim. What are your thoughts on this sort of home and home against the Hornets, where the second one, the one in Washington, is the one that really counts? At least
I think yeah. I mean, the Hornets are also towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference. I don't think a lot of people expect them to make the playoffs this year. You would love if the Wizards could at least get a split in that home to home. I think a split is fairly reasonable. It would be nice, especially to win the tournament game, just because I worry. You don't want to go 0-5 or whatever in your first ever in season tournament. So I'm gonna say the Wizards, if they will get a win this week, it's probably gonna be that Hornets game at home, which would be a nice one to get. Playoff atmosphere in DC for sure.
Yeah, I guess this will be the Hornets' first game in this in the in-game tournament. All the other teams we are in East Group B if you're watching live. So he right now are leading because they have a slightly higher point differential. And then the Bucks are right behind them, then Knicks, then Wizards, then Hornets. So it'll be a big game. Especially you kind of have to beat the Knicks and the Hornets because you're probably not going to beat the Heat and the Bucks to even have a chance of trying to advance in this. And then I guess my other question is, do you have any thoughts on the Nets and the Raptors games?
I
Me?
know.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Arun.
The Nets, just the Dinwiddie versus Kuzma. That's going to be the highlight for me of the season because they were in a beef, and like Dinwiddie says that Kuzma doesn't care about winning, and Kuzma called him din shitty. So it's a big game. That's it. That's it. That's like probably like the Wizards will probably try and game plan, go to sleep early and play that game. And it is
Nice.
a 3 o'clock game, so they'll go to sleep at maybe 7 or 8 p.m. like Joe Burrow apparently does.
It's a 3 o'clock on a Sunday game. Is that nationally televised? What is that? Why is that even then? I don't even know. Um, but and then I guess I'll get Arun. What are your thoughts on that Raptors game?
The Raptors are kind of like they just had a overtime game against Wemby that they're able to win. Scotty Barnes has been playing well, and they got rid of Nick Nurse, who just destroyed the Wizards at the Sixers. So the Wizards will probably lose that game at Toronto, given that they usually struggle, and now they have Jordan Poole, who's I don't expect him to have like 30 points against the Raptors. And remember when he's supposed to lead the league in scoring, it's not happening. So, I think that's probably the most likely loss of the week is the Monday game against the Raptors, especially on a back to back.
Yeah. One question going back to the Hornets game. Do you think that there's an advantage to playing them, at home for the tournament game and then but playing in Charlotte a couple of days before?
Um, I don't know. Like usually, whenever I go to a Wizards Hornets game, there's a lot of Hornets fans at the Wizards game. So, but let's see if maybe the in-season tournament will bring out more Wizards fans. That remains to be seen. Maybe if the Wizards play well on Wednesday, maybe they can drum up some home court. But I don't know what it's like at the Wizards like games right now. So, like if there are a lot of fans
Empty.
showing up.
So you can
It
probably get
is. It is though. They didn't even have good attendance for the home opener, so you can't be surprised. But
yeah.
they're not selling a lot of tickets. So
And I don't blame. I guess like people are complaining about DC fans, like they're supposed to be like I guess like the Chicago fans, they continue to show up for losing teams, but the Wizards are just like whatever. Let's save our money, or DC people, which makes more sense, especially in these tough economic times. Save your money.
Yeah. It's funny because
Biden prices with those tickets, so you got to be careful.
yeah, usually Arun and I try to go to a Wizards game, and we're going to go to a Capitals game together, which I think is a better use of the money. So it's actually gonna be fun. I don't think the three of us have ever gone to a hockey game together, so I'm kind of excited about that. So if anyone is tuning in late or missed the opening segment, we're gonna have a live podcast we're not gonna do the podcast, but a live get together with fans of the podcast at the Caps game on the 18th. So hopefully people will join us there. We have a big group of people that's actually getting together. We're sitting with 9 of us. There's 3 in the row behind us, and then a bunch of other people, including Grant Green, who I know from Scotland is flying over for the game, and so a lot of people. So it should be a lot of fun. I look forward to catching a different sport because I don't know. Arun, have you and I ever seen a hockey game together? I'm not sure if we ever have.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. And Tim and I've seen, I think, all the sports together at some point or another.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely. I think so. All the major ones.
yeah, for sure. So that'll be fun because it's been, I don't know, a long time since I've seen a Caps game with you, Tim. So that should be a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
many years, but
I was supposed to go to the
bigger.
game after the before the pandemic happened, like before they shut down the
All
sports
right.
for that Caps game. My friend it was funny. He didn't want to go, but then it ended up being canceled anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm
When I went
excited.
to the last event with Tim down the Wizards game, we weren't scared. Which was hilarious.
That's true. You
Yeah,
guys
bad
went to
risk.
the last Wizards game before the pandemic, I want to say, or something, you know.
There was like
Courtesy of Tommy Shepard, yeah, our best friend.
there were like 2 people with masks, and I was like, "What are those?"
Yeah, I remember that. That's crazy. It's bizarre that it's been 3 years already, but I'm excited to go with Leslie and Gil and C4, and so it should be a fun group for sure. I'm gonna end my screen share there, and we are gonna talk a little bit of baseball just for a second. Let me see if I can get the MLB playoff graphic up and see and get this one to go away. So I'm happy to announce that there's a new champion, the Texas Rangers. So I know that Max Scherzer got hurt, but I'm happy that he did get another championship. And it's interesting since he started his career in Arizona, for him to win this championship in Arizona, I know was a kind of a full circle moment for him. And I was just I was happy for their fans. And Tim, I know that the Orioles, played them tough. They were a really good team this year. What are your final thoughts on the Texas Rangers?
Yeah, most of the year they played really well, and in the regular season they had a dip towards the end of the year, and as we talked about, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, they really blew the division to the Astros and played badly the last week, and nobody thought they were a huge threat in the playoffs, even though they have a ton of talent and a scary lineup. But in baseball, in the playoffs, you just need to be the hot team. The top seeds lose all the time. You look at the top records this year, pretty much every team lost in their first round, like Braves, Orioles, and Dodgers all kind of shit the bed. So it's Texas got hot at the right time. I think they'll be good for a while. They're willing to spend money, and they have a lot of rookies that stepped up. So they're going to be a force for a while. They finally won their first championship, I think, as a franchise, even in it's been decades. So good for them. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's tough being an Orioles fan, seeing them lose, but you want to lose to the best at least, not, to someone that gets swept the next round.
Yeah. One interesting stat that I liked was the Rangers' Will Smith won 3 consecutive World Series titles with 3 different teams. And he actually didn't play that many games to do it. Says he was a reliever.
Yeah, just a reliever. Yeah, he knows how to pick them. So if he's a
Yeah,
free agent, watch out.
yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting stat. Arun, any final thoughts on the season of baseball?
No, just that this was like the lowest rated like World Series TV ratings ever. It was a nightmare matchup as far as TV ratings go. The NBA, they had a nightmare matchup, and their ratings weren't as bad. So I guess it's baseball, so maybe like these top teams getting knocked out, that's probably could be bad for ratings, because they were like hyping up the Orioles like before the playoffs, even from a national perspective. And it's not, I guess, even the Rays, like all these top teams, they just kept losing, like the Braves and the Nationals. I think the Phillies, they would have gotten more ratings too if they had gotten in. But like people just weren't tuned in, and I also kind of tuned out once Max Scherzer got injured, and it was like a 3-1 series lead, and I didn't even really. I when it was 3-1, I just assumed like the Diamondbacks won game five, because but then the Rangers won, and there was like nobody was really talking about it until the next day. I just like checked. I was like, oh, and the World Series is over. So uh, I guess it's good that these hot teams, any team can win. But if people aren't watching, I don't know what baseball is going to do. Maybe like we'll see what happens like going forward.
I gotta give the Texas Rangers a lot of credit. They won 11 road games in a row. All of them. They didn't lose a single road game in this thing, which I was always impressed by the Nationals. They actually won 8 road games, I believe, in a row, and are top 5 all time in that statistical category in their big run to the World Series. But 11, just never to lose on the road, is just a really impressive stat in my book. And I just thought that was kind of interesting that I'd put out there as well. So it's got a minute 30 left. The Jets have the ball, but they're now down 27-6. So I think this game is pretty over. And I think that this podcast is pretty over as well. I don't have a whole lot more, but I'll let Tim give his final thoughts. Anything you want to let people know about before we end the show?
No, great show. Very excited about the Caps game with a huge group. It'll be nice to meet people and hang out with old friends. So I'll see you guys soon, and have a good one.
Yeah, you got a big game coming up against the Browns this weekend. Hopefully,
Yeah, gonna be tough.
yeah, that'll be an interesting matchup. At least it's in Baltimore, so hopefully that suits you guys well. I can't believe you guys get 3 home games in a row. That's interesting. Against the
So
Seahawks, the Browns, and the Bengals, right?
yeah, weird schedule because there were a lot of road games early, and so I think the Ravens still have like 7 home games left, which is nice.
Yeah,
Hopefully, they'll take advantage.
they end the season with the last 2 games on the at home as well, against the Steelers and the Dolphins. So be interesting to see how they do, and hopefully they'll continue to play well. And Tim, thank you so much for joining
Yeah,
us. I
thanks,
really
guys.
appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good
Yeah.
night. Talk soon. Bye.
All right, Arun, any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, not really. Just saw James Harden made his debut with the Clippers, or I guess his debut, as far as I know, he played against the Knicks. So good to see him back in action. And I had a podcast episode last week, so maybe I'll get back into doing it. So
Oh,
thanks for
oh
having me
no.
on.
Yeah, well, real quickly while I still have you on, what was the podcast on this week?
It's like it was about just the Wizards and football and some Commanders talk.
Cool. Well, if you want to listen to more, it's anchor.fm/Hey Arun. I put the link in chat. You can also check out the link on the podcast, our Team Sports OTHP links on sportsothp.com, and I'll be sure to add the link in the show notes this week as well. But Arun, thank you for joining us as always, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sure, thanks for having me on.
All right, with that, I think that we are about to wrap it up. I am going to end our Facebook Live segment there, and our audio podcast, and then I'll talk to the Twitch people for just a couple of moments. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in on Facebook and listening in on the audio podcast. This has been episode 320. Capitals did get their historic 1,000th franchise win. We didn't talk about it a lot in the hockey segment, but they are one of the fastest teams in history to get to 1,000 wins at home. And so that congratulations to them. Hopefully they'll continue to have more Ovechkin goals and more wins in the upcoming week. Big week for the Wizards as well, as we've highlighted their 4 upcoming games. And of course, the Commanders have a big game in the afternoon against Seattle. So hopefully all those go well. And I really appreciate everyone for tuning in live on all the different platforms. And with that, let's go Caps, let's go Wizards, let's go Commanders. And we'll talk to you next week. And for episode 321. Hope you have a good one. We're DC Sports Without the Politics, Sports on the Hill podcast.
Recording stopped.
With that, the audio podcast is done. And let me just change a couple of graphics over here. See, and says MLB playoffs. We're turning that off, and I'll do my graphic here. Anyway, with that, I'm going to take a quick look at who is on right now. It looks like the stream scribe is still on. And we are going to raid over to him. Who is the stream scribe? People don't know. He's Carlo and does art. You can see an example of his art live on the overlay as well. So we got our raid and our sub raid commands, and I really appreciate Andy for modding tonight, Tina for joining in. A bunch of awesome people are lurking, which I appreciate that as well. Grab a raid call. We're gonna go over to Carlo and visit him. Let me do right. There you go. Oops. Not that right. There we go. And yep, so grab a raid call. We're gonna head over to Carlo right now. Appreciate everyone for tuning in and being a part of it live on Twitch. We'll be back next week with another episode of hockey talk, football talk, basketball talk, and more. Hope you guys have a great week and talk to you guys